Today is the slowest pace of change you will ever see again in your entire lives.
The greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function.
How it manifests itself in our lives, it's an entirely different story.
Future's really inherently unpredictable. We can't know what's around that next corner. But that doesn't mean there's not room for tremendous breakthroughs. We've been looking at what there is to do exactly backwards, trying to get to some innovation, or let's go do transformation. Let's arrive at that end result. Therefore, we try to get better at predicting what technologies, what tools, what moments are going to make or break us down the line. That prediction work is needed. Understanding your goals, your roadmap, working on getting where you're going, it's necessary. It's just missing something. It's so blatantly obvious, it's easy to overlook, yet so fundamentally important. It's more important than the destination itself. Now, if this can happen with a restaurant during the middle of COVID-19, think of what we can do with the same system, these same principles, with your business, with your resources, and most importantly, your people.
Only thing standing between the linear incremental growth that we accept, we don't even like it, but we accept it, is our willingness to embrace discomfort.
How we know that, right? Technology is inevitably on that exponential growth curve. And so it's up to us to step in to those opportunities.
It's a place to come from. Its potential is embedded in repeated moments as systems in your business culture. Culture gives you expansive growth. The technologies, tools, processes, even the ideas are simply the result.
As you can develop this company culture as a group of people that can add value to the customer base, well, then you start to get specific answers to your question.
There's no way to operate within our current status quo and expect to win big.
No matter what title you have, what position you hold, what legacy you're trying to achieve, the world today is calling for you to be something more.
By taking these 5 things and putting them into your life, into your business, you can achieve breakthrough growth.
Yeah, well, I didn't start off hunting discomfort, that's for sure. The funny thing is, I hear from people after they see the cover of the book, they're like, Sterling, look at my business, my relationships, my bank account. I don't need to hunt discomfort. I'm surrounded by it. And my answer is always the same, which is, well, you're not hunting discomfort. You're living with it and probably placating why you have those things happening to you. Hunting discomfort means you're free of that discomfort. And Mark, just to get into a little bit of the background, I learned that the hard way. I was relatively successful early on. I grew up a 5th-generation retailer, my family's grocery store. Learned that store and the operations like the back of my hand. But right out of college, I thought, you know what? It's time to spread my wings a little bit. I still want to stay connected, but I want to do something new. So I started a retail software company with my dad. You can probably guess who our first customer was, my family store. That's like lesson 1 today, Mark. Sell to the closest dollar, right?
Of course, yeah.
So long story short, we end up selling it to a group in Silicon Valley where it becomes part of this massive conglomerate that's like an Apple Pay before Apple Pay.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We raised $550 million, multi-billion-dollar valuation, offices all over the world, 700 people. And I am sure it's just a matter of time until this thing goes public, cash is in, and I crown myself the next Steve Jobs so I could properly accept that. Congratulations from me, Mark.
Of course.
But it didn't turn out that way. When the housing market collapsed, our funding dried up, the entire company goes bankrupt, $500 million gone. And when the company collapsed, so did I. And it wasn't like I got to choose the discomfort. It was like I was thrown into the deep end of discomfort and everything that I went with it. And it was from some of those dark moments and dark experiences and questioning everything about myself and the world and whether or not I want to be here for the rest of this ride we call humanity, that I realized there's real power in discomfort if we use it the right way. And that's what kind of started the journey and was the premise of the book. So in the dark time, I'm going to get to that in just a second. The thing that scared me most was speaking in public. I couldn't look somebody in the eye, not to mention stand up on a stage somewhere. It was totally debilitating for me. I was one of the many, maybe there's some of you here that would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. Like anything other than standing on stage. And part of what I realized as I had like bottomed out, my girlfriend's broken up with me, I moved into my parents' house, I'm 6 figures of personal debt. I was like, I'm going to go after these things that scare me. So I started speaking in public, and it was debilitating early on. I couldn't get words out of my mouth. I'd be sweating. My hands would get clammy. Some of you that might be in the same boat that I was, like, you know, those feelings. But I just kept at it. I kept doing it. And today, funny enough, it is my favorite thing in the world to do. I just got off the stage. I was telling you, Mark, before we went live here, 60 minutes ago, I walked off a stage. I was in front of 250, 300 people for an event here in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's exhilarating. It's a rush. Like, I love everything about it. And I'm incredibly grateful for the people that come, that listen, that are a part of this no matter what movement and everything that comes with it. So I treat it very professionally. I get to sleep early the night before. I get up early. I do some kind of cardio exercise. Usually I'm cycling. I'll meditate. I'll say some prayers. I'll have a small breakfast, and then I get the show on the road. So going into it, I was already speaking a fair bit. So when I was accepted to speak outside San Diego at the TEDx event there, I was like, oh, you know, I got this. I'm a speaker. I'll figure it out. And the person that was leading the event is like, throw out everything you thought you were going to talk about, everything you were going to say, all your principles, get rid of everything and be here right now. And let's have a conversation about what you're going to talk about. And it was really an exploration of some of the things I thought, what was going on with me, how I saw the world, that over a period of 8, 10, 12 weeks, however long it was, kind of crystallized a message, something that had always been inside of me. But it took that process of setting aside what I already knew to be able to discover that. And when the day came, I thought like, oh, it's another keynote. I got it. It's shorter. It's going to be great. And you see that red circle up on stage, you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is a little different. So I was a little nervous giving it, but it was a phenomenal experience because I didn't like discomfort. I thought it was something that I could avoid, I could deny, I could buckle down and just survive. Like I see with many now, you know, we've got pandemic fallout, we've got tech disruption, global instability, supply chain disruption, inflation, looming depression, like you name it, we're dealing with it. And there's this natural tendency to do the same thing I did: avoid it, deny it, survive it, or hope, dope, and cope, right? Basically saying not deal with it head on. And having learned the hard way that it doesn't lead to a very good place over time, I said, you know what? There's something to what I've cultivated for myself. It was really just digging myself out of that hole when I was at my parents' house that I cared about initially. But as I went through that, and then my sister and others started to take these same steps that I was taking, that were transforming not just my life and my business, but who I am, that I started to realize, hey, this is something that I need to share. I need to put this on paper and talk about how hunting discomfort is the way to growth. And when you're really hunting it, you're free of it. And somewhat ironically, you live a freer, happier life, and all the results, time better spent, deeper connections, more money, more business success, all lives in that same place on the other side of discomfort. Well, I didn't really create it on purpose. You know that saying, misery loves company?
Yep.
Well, when you're hunting discomfort for growth, well, that loves company too. And very unintentionally, people started to join me. It was first my sister, who came with me when I was doing some of those early keynotes. And she, like too many young people, especially young women, dealt with an eating disorder and body dysmorphia. And she said, Sterling, I've seen what you've gone through. I've kind of understand how you're transforming yourself. I will be healthy no matter what. Well, today she's a championship bodybuilder. And then all of a sudden, somebody from my professional past, his name was Sofan. He came to the US as a Cambodian refugee, didn't really speak the language, was flat broke. He said, Sterling, I will be a successful entrepreneur. I kid you not, as the founder of a Cambodian beef jerky company, which I didn't even know was the thing, he is selling more than he can keep up with. And
tell his story, because we
Yeah.
asked that question later. You might as well tell that story now.
Yeah, well, it was just that. He came over, had nothing, was working a bunch of odd jobs, just trying to keep himself above water for his wife, for his young kids. And he didn't just tell me that he was going to be an entrepreneur no matter what. He started sharing it with his boss, his friends, people around him, which gave them the opportunity to start holding him accountable to it. They started to listen to him in a new way. It wasn't just Sofan who's doing all these jobs. It's Sofan who will be an entrepreneur. And when are you starting? How are you starting? And so he slowly got started making the Cambodian beef jerky at home. And he went through all of these things that for many of us would stop us. You know, he took English language classes, he took business classes, he found mentors. He was working like 24/7, this guy, between all the classes and the learning and keeping the odd jobs together. But it was really those commitments. It's the step in the no matter what system I call getting a tattoo. Not a real tattoo, but you commit in a way where there's no going back. It's by making those commitments to those people around him and then asking those people to hold him accountable that he's become hugely successful. I think he just bought like an R7, one of those fancy supercars. He sent me a picture of it. I was like, no way, Sofan. You know, from barely scraping by to now you're driving this supercar around the Bay Area, California. Like, just, it's incredible. So it was then him, and then other people started to kind of join in, like, oh, I've seen what Haviland's done and Sofan and all these people. And they started to realize, well, I want a little piece of that. Like, what are they doing? And it was first a few, and then tens, then hundreds, and then thousands of people all around the world declaring new visions, big and small, and hunting the discomfort necessary to achieve them. They were hitting new sales goals, new performance goals. They were speaking up and asking for help for some the very first time. Others were having difficult but necessary conversations. I realized, hey, wait a minute. This thing that I built for me isn't about me at all. It's about supporting others to achieve their dreams, what they want to achieve in their lives and their businesses, no matter what they're facing. And wouldn't you know it, many of them have achieved their goals as well. And only within the last couple of years have we formalized that and said, okay, you know, there's a community here, a community of support, of listening, of accountability, where we can support each other to do those things, because it is hard, right? There's no magic wand, there's no silver bullet. And as somebody that's tried all the easy ways out, I can tell you they don't work. But when you're willing to do the hard work, the deep work, the emotional work, the uncomfortable things that you probably don't want to face or don't want to look at, it will transform your results. Has for me, has for countless businesses and individuals all over the world. And that's what the no matter what communities become. Discomfort is there to tell us something about our circumstances. You know, if you look back in the caveman days, like we were saying, oh, I'm uncomfortable with this hunger. I've got to go do something about that, right? Like, it's driving our behavior. Now, what's happened in modern times is we can avoid that discomfort, and we miscalibrate our discomfort with the world, where we feel discomfort is no longer associated with our survival. I'll give you a good example of that. Speaking on stage. hugely uncomfortable for me back in the day, but there's no real risk there, right? Nobody's going to jump on stage and tackle me, or, I'm not going to get in trouble of any sort. I might mess up, but there's no real physical danger there. And so we have these miscalibrated discomfort muscles based on our comfort zone. And what happens is that our results are determined not by the things that we're willing to do, but by the things we're not willing to do. And when discomfort stops us, we literally get stuck. Yeah, I think the prevailing narrative is like, well, find some more grit and work harder. I got to tell you, as somebody that really works hard and knowing people that work literally 18 hours a day and have for 25 years, hard work is not the only answer. It might be necessary, but it's not the only thing. It's going after the things that are uncomfortable that are going to give us those breakthrough and sometimes surprising results. If we don't deal with discomfort, it works kind of like a governor does on a car, right? No matter how hard you hit the gas, no matter how hard you work, you just can't go any faster. You can't get any new results. And I found this really interesting Norwegian research that said, when you're avoiding, denying, or surviving discomfort, you're not dealing with the things that are causing that fear, anger, grief, anxiety, embarrassment, whatever it is. If you're not dealing with the essence of that, the core of that, where that comes from, it leaves us not unwilling to do the things we know how to do, but unable. We know exactly what to do. We've learned all the things from YouTube and great podcasts like this and college and books and the internet, but discomfort stops us. Now, the flip side is also true. Research out of Yale says that when you're experiencing discomfort, you're in the throes of it, right? Maybe your heart's beating, your adrenaline's coursing through your vein, your palms get a little bit sweaty, whatever discomfort is for you, you're primed to learn up to 4 times faster. Biologically, it's a biohack to be better, faster, and smarter. It's not something to avoid. Now, I wish they told me this back when I was taking the SATs or in college, because I'd be sitting in the front row on a bed of nails.
Yeah.
But now I know, like, this is literally something that we can use to advance us personally, professionally, in life, in every area. And it's massively important. And many of us miss because why? It doesn't feel very good. Yeah, right on. I mean, it's really easy to get comfortable and then reason and rationalize why you can't have the results that you want. My mom, she had all these sayings when I was a kid, but one of them came back to me during that hard time. She used to say things like, it's cheaper to milk a cow than buy one. I'm like, what? Or don't take any wooden nickels. I still don't know what that one means, but the one that came back to me and means so much to me now is the way out is through. It's actually Robert Frost, but to me, it'll always be my mom. And it means we've got to go through the uncomfortable, the things we're fearful of, scared of, embarrassed about, maybe even shameful of. And what we're looking for is on the other side. And as somebody that's gone through some of his deepest, darkest fears, I can tell you, my mom's right. The way out is through. We just have to commit to going through, no matter what.
What's the process you use initially for hunting for discomfort?
Yeah, well, the first thing is you've got to notice it. Just by our own humanity, we've built our business and our lives to avoid discomfort because it doesn't feel very good. So it takes something to start to reorient yourself to where are those discomfort points, right? We're hunting discomfort, I call it, the first step in the no matter what system. Is it in a particular relationship? Is it asking for money? Is it a cold call? Is it saying something to somebody, right? It's first identifying where that discomfort is for you. And then you take the second step, I call it get a tattoo. Not a real tattoo, but look for ways you can commit to going through that discomfort where there's no going back. This is where you get rid of your safety nets, the plan B, you burn that proverbial bridge. You find that place where there's no going back. And you need people on your side to help. It's not an easy process. You need what I call a street gang. No switchblades, no cut glass. You don't need a bandana. And because, Mark, I know you've got kind of a rowdy group here. I'm not suggesting anybody do anything unlawful, It's about surrounding yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable to what you want to achieve. By the way, research shows when you're personally accountable, that means you got a specific deliverable, specific day, specific time with a specific person. You're not 60, 70, 80, or even 90% more likely to achieve the goal. You're 95% more likely to achieve that goal. And by the way, as a team, it's even better. When you hold each other accountable, you're almost 4 times as likely to achieve that goal. I call it creating a no matter what culture. So that's the third step. Build a street gang. The fourth step is near and dear to me because I'm somebody that likes to avoid the conflict and the problems and the circumstances. I like to cover up the proverbial wart. There's inherent strength in those things if and only if you take the time and have the courage to find it. We can talk about some stories there if you like later, Mark. And the fifth step is surrender. Not give up, not sit on the couch and watch Netflix and order a pizza, but accept things exactly as they are and exactly as they're not. Carl Jung, arguably the father of modern psychology, said you cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation about anything, your team, your community, inflation, looming depression, the war in Europe, your supply chain, condemnation about any of those things does not liberate. It oppresses and makes it very hard to do much else. And so when you're able to surrender to something greater than yourself, give over the things that you cannot control and you can't change, that's where you actually grow from discomfort. You open your mind to new perspectives and you soften your heart to those uncomfortable feelings. And that is when they move through you and you're forever free of them. And that is growth. That's the no matter what system.